Vikings, let's win the game.
Vikings fans, there is something big happening in the halls of Minnesota. There is talk of a trade for an expensive quarterback. On defense, a premium rookie is going to have to carry the load without one of the leaders. Another captain is already headed for surgery, and a key starter on offense is fighting the clock to be on the field against the Giants. Now, the last story brings a Justin Jefferson vent that hits different. But before we crack open every detail of this rundown real quick, subscribe to the channel. It is free and it helps a ton to keep this conversation alive. Drop a like too. That pushes YouTube to recommend this video to more fans. And put your take in the comments. It matters a lot to this community. All right, let's talk about the rumor that has everyone in purple and gold feeling uneasy. ESPN's Jeremy Fowler said the Minnesota Vikings are one of the most ideal landing spots for Kyler Murray. Yes, Kyler Murray from the Cardinals. And this is not just random chatter. The idea is simple. The quarterback market is dry again. When options are limited, any spark turns into a fire. At the same time, J.J. McCarthy has looked better over the last 2 weeks. You can see more calm in the pocket. You can see cleaner reads and fewer prayer throws. But there are still 3 games left before the offseason. And that leads to the question everybody avoids saying out loud, is he the guy for 2026, or are we still guessing in the dark? To be honest with you, I get why Kyler is tempting in Kevin O'Connell's offense. He has an arm, he has legs. When he is locked in, he changes how defenses play you. Put that with the weapons this team has, and you can legitimately dream about a real NFC fight. You really can. Fans want a Super Bowl window. Nobody here is collecting almost. But the price is scary. Murray's deal is massive, around $230 million total. And what really hits is next year's guaranteed money. It is in the neighborhood of $37 million, and the Vikings are already staring at the salary cap like, how are we paying for this? Because there is talk of a serious deficit on next year's books. If you take on that salary and also send out premium draft picks, you are basically saying McCarthy is no longer the plan. That is a stamp. And there is another side you cannot ignore: health. Murray keeps showing up on the injury report. This year he barely played. In past years he missed a bunch too. So I am asking you straight up, are we trading cheap stability for an expensive gamble that could end up on the bench? I have seen that movie in the NFL. I do not like the ending. Now, if the staff truly believes a healthy Kyler puts this team on a championship track, the conversation changes, because a title changes everything. But this is not a video game. There is chemistry. There is a locker room. There is a long-term plan. And most importantly, there is McCarthy's growth happening in real time. He still has a limited number of starts. The kid is still going to make mistakes. The question is whether he is making mistakes that teach him or mistakes that show he is not seeing it. And I want to hear you on this. If a real chance to get Kyler Murray shows up, do you push the button? Or do you stick with McCarthy and spend that money on the trenches and the defense? Drop your take in the comments and tell me what your gut says. I will admit something. I laughed when I read top ideal destination. I laughed and thought, here we go again with another wild offseason. But you cannot pretend there is no smoke. O'Connell is one of those guys who makes quarterbacks play better, and that matters in this decision. But hold up. The next story hits the defense hard, and the absence is massive. Look, the season might feel a little beat up, but there is one storyline I have loved watching grow: Dallas Turner. And now it is not optional because Jonathan Greenard is out for the rest of the year. Shoulder surgery. That is it for 2025. That opens a huge hole in the defense. And whether you like it or not, Turner is the one who has to step up. Brian Flores called Greenard a captain and one of the best players on the team. And he is right. Greenard was the engine of the pass rush. He was the guy who changes the quarterback's internal clock. Without him, the defense loses that constant pressure vibe. And now the stadium debate turns into this. Is Turner just going to be out there, or is he going to actually be disruptive? Let me be crystal clear. I have been waiting for this moment since the draft. A first-rounder is not supposed to be a background character. Fans in purple and gold want impact. They want the opposing tackle to feel it. And over the last few weeks, Turner started showing real signs of life. He had that strong stretch with pressure on top of pressure. He had tackles for loss. He had sacks showing up. It was the kind of run that makes you think, okay, this kid is starting to get it. And what makes it more interesting is that he is not locked into one job. Flores is moving him around. One side, the other side. Sometimes standing up, sometimes with his hand in the dirt. For a young player, that is tough. There are adjustments. There are reads. There is discipline. When he gets it right, Flores' scheme turns into a hunt. And I love it when the defense turns into a hunt, because waiting for mistakes gives you heartburn. Now, you cannot fake it. Greenard is a standard, so Turner does not need to become a Greenard copy. He needs to be Dallas Turner, period. Win one-on-ones, set the edge, show up on third down. That is when the whole building holds its breath. That is where you separate promise from real. This stretch is also a showcase. If he finishes these last 3 games with real presence, he walks into 2026 with a strong case for more snaps. The production trend is already there. More pressures, more sacks, more noise. But I want consistency. I want to see him control a good tackle, then do it again the next week. I want to see him force the quarterback off the plan early, like in the first quarter. And there is one detail that excites me and scares me. When Flores says versatility, he is also saying, I am going to test you to the limit. And tests with the Vikings are not usually gentle. So it is time for Turner to raise his hand and say, this is on me. If he does, the defense gains a future. If he disappears, we are right back at square one. Stay with me, because the next story is heavier. A captain is going down in the back end, and that hits the heart of this team. Here comes the punch that is not just a lineup change. This is leadership leaving the field. Josh Metellus is getting shoulder surgery, and he is out for the final 3 games. A captain, a starter, the kind of guy you miss for 2 snaps, even when the camera never shows him. Kevin O'Connell talked about it, and you could feel the respect. Metellus is the voice that organizes. He calls adjustments. He brings energy when the game starts slipping. And in a secondary that has already been up and down, losing that reference point is dangerous. You blink, and the opponent finds the void. And he did it across more than one role. On the field, Metellus produced real volume. Tackles, pass breakups, interceptions, even a few shots on the quarterback. He does the dirty work and still steadies the emotional temperature. And here is the part that matters long term. He just got paid, and it was not cheap. 3 years, $36 million total. So the expectation was to have him solid for a while. With him out, it looks like Jay Ward gets more responsibility. I like Ward's courage. He does not avoid contact, but the NFL is ruthless when you become a real every down guy. Miss an angle, touchdown, arrive late, flag. Fans in purple and gold have watched that movie more than once. And then there is the side plot. Isaiah Rodgers. His early season flashes were loud, the kind that makes you jump off the couch. But over the last few weeks, he lost some ground and ended up more in specific packages. And now there is already speculation that, with the salary cap tight, he could become a cut candidate down the road. That changes everything, because every snap becomes a test. With Metellus sidelined and Ward rising, it could open the door for Rodgers to play more and fight to reclaim status. It is the kind of moment you either grab or you vanish. And I will be honest, I get nervous when the team goes into that let's see what happens mode. You also cannot ignore the locker room mood. First, Jonathan Greenard goes to surgery. Now Metellus is on the same path. When captains drop back-to-back, the group feels it. Flores and O'Connell have to keep the defense breathing and competing, even with a patched-together lineup. I want to hear from everyone who lives and breathes Vikings football every day. Do you trust Jay Ward to hold it down back there? Or do you think Isaiah Rodgers has to come back swinging? No debate. Tell me in the comments, because this is a real fan argument. And stay locked in, because the next story hits the offense. There is a massive name on the line. There is a knee that will not quiet down. And there is a decision that could shape the rest of this season. All right, because this one hits the foundation of the offense. Christian Darrisaw is dealing with a knee situation that is exhausting just to track. And here is the key. The Vikings, at least for now, are not ready to shut him down for the season. Even with the year feeling sideways, the plan still sounds like they want Darrisaw back on the field again. Let's remember how big this has been. Darrisaw has been carrying the effects of that serious injury he suffered in October of 2024 against the Rams. He missed the first 2 games this year. He returned in week 3, and since then, it has been that load management plan we all know. He basically does not practice on Thursdays. Everything is controlled, step by step. The goal is to keep him intact. But even then, the body bills you. There were games where he left after just a few snaps. There were weeks where he sat. And now, after Sunday night against the Cowboys, he did not play because of the knee again. Kevin O'Connell said there was swelling during the week. He said Darrisaw just couldn't get there. And when a head coach starts leaning hard on day-to-day, you know it is messy. I am going to say this plainly. I understand both sides. There is a strong case to shut Darrisaw down now. Protect him. Get the knee to 100% in the offseason, because elite left tackles do not grow on trees. And when he is right, he changes the entire offense. But there is also the other side the staff is watching. If Darisaw can play, these last games help evaluate J.J. McCarthy the right way, because a young quarterback without protection on the blind side becomes a target, and McCarthy's development matters to everyone in that building. When Darisaw has been on the field, he has still been useful, but you can tell he is not at that absurd level from before. The PFF grade dipped, the penalties went up. There were games where he struggled more than we are used to seeing. And this is not hating. This is the reality of a guy coming back from a major injury and playing near the limit, and I will admit it, I get tense when I see a man that size limping. The concern is time. More than a year has passed since the original injury, and the knee still flares up. That raises the quiet fear. Is this becoming chronic? The Vikings say no. O'Connell praised Darisaw's rehab work and said he believes this will be in the rearview mirror. I hope so, because fans in purple and gold need that guy fully right. Now, the weekly call is going to be in the details. He is not doing the walkthrough. They are going to monitor how the knee responds day to day, and the staff has to be cold about it. If there is a real risk of making it worse, sit him. If he can play safely, let him go. But you cannot play games with the future of your left tackle. And stay with me, because the next story is the biggest one. It is the one that turns into memes. It turns into bar debates. And it gets inside J.J. McCarthy's head, with Justin Jefferson stepping into the conversation. All right, now we get to the story that looks small, but snowballs because it involves ego, scrutiny, and how the NFL chews up young quarterbacks. J.J. McCarthy introduced this whole 9 thing, and people piled on fast. Then comes the twist that changes the tone. Justin Jefferson defended him and spoke like a real leader. It started after that win over the Lions, when cameras caught McCarthy with that locked-in stare in the locker room. Then he said that on game day, a switch flips. He said he calls that version of himself 9. At first it sounded harmless, like, okay, let the kid have his thing. But then the team stumbled. He played poorly in a stretch. And suddenly 9 became a meme. It became easy fuel for jokes. Every time another quarterback played badly, people edited them into that now famous McCarthy stare shot. Radio jumped on it too. Paul Allen from K-Fan said the 9 thing was bad and did not feel like who McCarthy is. And Kevin O'Connell answered the way a coach answers when he wants to cool it down without embarrassing the guy. He said he wants JJ to be authentically himself and not waste energy trying to be a persona, and honestly, that tracks. The job is hard enough already. To be honest with you, I think the real issue was never the name 9. The issue was timing. When you are winning, everything becomes killer mindset. When you lose and you play badly, every quote becomes ammunition. And the league loves to find reasons to knock you down, especially when you are young and just starting. Then Justin Jefferson steps in, and I loved how he framed it. He basically said, relax. He said McCarthy is not acting big-headed. He said it is the same as people calling him Jets or Jettas. He said every player has that game mode, that confidence switch that flips when you step on the field. And most importantly, he hit the part nobody wants to admit. Quarterbacks live in a nonstop courtroom. When you are up, they look for reasons to pull you down. When you are down, they keep you there. That is leadership to me. Jefferson did not have to say anything. He could have stayed neutral. He could have let the kid take the heat alone, but he protected him publicly. And that says a lot about the locker room. It says this team still believes in McCarthy growing, not hiding. It also sends a message to fans. Critique is fair, but do not turn everything into a circus. Now, to be fair, McCarthy has to learn too. You cannot keep feeding a persona when you are still building your foundation in this league. If he keeps playing well, 9 becomes a small, funny footnote. If he swings back into mistakes, the jokes will come back. That part is inevitable. What I want over these last games is simple. Play loose, but play responsible. Do not try to prove anything to the internet. And with Jefferson next to him, keep your head up when the world tries to push it down. And now I'm going to close this out the right way by tying all of it together, because this moment for the Vikings demands a firm stance. I am going to tell you something that might sound harsh, but it is real. The Vikings are at a point where the team has to decide who controls the story, because it is all connected. The Kyler Murray rumor only exists because J.J. McCarthy has not fully slammed the door yet, and everyone who lives and breathes Vikings football every day can feel that in their gut. It is promise, doubt, and stubborn hope all mixed together. The defense also feels like a crossroads. Dallas Turner got the chance fans have been begging for, but it came the hard way because Jonathan Greenard went down and stepped out of the picture. And then Josh Metellus followed him to surgery. 2 captains, 2 hits, and a secondary that was already walking a tightrope. You lose leadership, you lose reference points, and that changes how a team competes. On offense, Christian Darrisaw has become the thermometer for how much the staff is willing to risk. If he plays, you protect McCarthy and you get a cleaner evaluation of the kid. If he sits, you protect the future, but you put more heat on an offense still trying to find itself. And the human side matters. Nobody wants to watch an elite left tackle carry a swollen knee in December for nothing. Then you have the 9 story. People laughed. People criticized. I get both sides. But what Justin Jefferson did was huge. He reminded everyone that young quarterbacks get hit from all directions. They get hit when they are high. They get hit even harder when they are low. And whether you love it or hate it, that shows the locker room still believes in McCarthy. That guarantees nothing, but it shows there is a foundation. Here is my bold statement. If the Vikings protect what matters and demand what is necessary, 2026 can start stronger than it looks right now. But they have to be firm. You cannot live on rumors. You cannot live on memes. And you cannot live on patching leadership every week. Drop your comment because this space belongs to everyone who lives and breathes Vikings football, and I want to know if you are riding with J.J. McCarthy or if you would actually embrace the chaos of going after Kyler Murray. And in the middle of all that, what would you do with Darisaw in this defense full of holes? We suffer, but we never leave the team. Stay tuned. SKOL Vikings, let's go!